Hi everybody, and welcome to this video where we're going to talk about how you calculate the SCR in Solvency II. So I've got three things I want to go through. The SCR calculation at a general level, and then how you apply the standard formula, which is one way of working out the SCR, and then problems with this approach. So I think probably each of these things will be a separate kind of shorter video. I think that's probably how we'll split things up, but we'll just kind of see how we go and how it feels. So let's start with SCR calculation. Okay, so our SCR is equal to, by definition, minimum amount, dear, that's written rather badly, minimum amount of money required to ensure market value of assets is greater than or equal to market value of liabilities with a 99.5% probability over the next 1 year. So that's the definition. That's what we need to work out. The amount of money, so that MV of A is greater than or equal to MV of L with a 99.5% probability over the next 1 year. So the couple of ways we can work this out. So we can work this out using a standard formula from the regulations, or our own internal model of the risks the company is exposed to. So the standard formula is a big formula. It's broken up into lots of separate bits, but it's a big formula in the regulations. And if you like, this is the easier thing to do because you just follow a set of rules and you come up with the SCR and that's all you need. But you don't have to do that. What you could do is build your own model, so kind of like your own kind of stochastic model maybe of all the different risks the company is exposed to, and then you kind of run it and get the 99.5% point, and that is what your SCR is. So you have to decide as a company which of these you want to do. So there are pros and cons of both of them. Pros and cons of these two choices are, so let's put the standard formula over here and internal model over here. So a positive for the standard formula is that it's quicker to do things this way. And a positive is also that it's easier than doing the internal model. A negative is that it is less accurate, because this standard formula is built to work for any company, and your own company will have specific things that are unique to it. So in some sense the standard formula is less accurate. And also maybe you get a higher SCR than using an internal model. And so that's a big motivation for people using an internal model over here, that actually you're going to end up using less capital because you're being more accurate in some sense. Although that does depend on the regulator approving the use of your internal model. So it's slower. Let's just keep the colours consistent. So negative is that it's slower. Another negative of the internal model is that it's more expensive, so you need to employ a lot of actuaries to kind of work it out and have a good think about what they want to do. There's a lot of more kind of complexity here. A positive is that it's more accurate, arguably, because you're building something that is specific for your company. Positive smaller SCR than standard formula. Okay, a kind of a complicated negative is that you need to prove to regulator it is used in the management of the company. And so this is called the use test. So if you want to use an internal model, you can't just build it and use it just for checking, just for producing your balance sheet, just for calculating the SCR. Instead, the model has to be used as part of the risk management process of the company. So I guess, you could argue that's a good thing. So actually this should be a positive. I've put this as a negative because it means that there is more effort required here in comparison with the standard formula type approach. Another negative is that it needs regulator approval. So you can't just build it and use it. you have to build it, produce results, share the results, all your documentation with the regulator, demonstrate the use test type stuff, and then the regulator decides whether or not you are allowed to use the internal model that you've built. A big positive is the company understands risk better, which should imply company is better run. So that is a major impact of Solvency II. If you're doing the internal model, you've got a whole lot of actuaries that are thinking carefully about risks and how to model risks and what the risks are. They're not just following a set of instructions. And all of that thinking means that more risks will be identified, things will be thought about in more detail, more mitigants will be put in place. Arguably, doing it this way just leads to the company understanding its risk better, it making kind of better decisions, and the company overall being better run. You know, you should have your expected profits should become more reliable because you're managing risk in a better way. In terms of this regulator approval thing, let's let's take this and deal with it up here. So, if the regulator does not approve use of internal model, then they may require standard formula calculation or approval of a partial internal model which uses some parts of the internal model and some parts of the standard formula. Okay, let's kind of put this in brackets. So you you can't set this up. You cannot choose to use some bits of the standard formula and do some modelling yourself in order to get the best of both worlds. That is not possible. You choose whether you want to do the standard formula or whether you want to do your own internal model. And then the regulator comes along and decides whether you are allowed to use your internal model. If you are not allowed to use your internal model, then they might make you use the whole standard formula instead, or they might say, you can use your internal model for some parts and then the standard formula for other parts and then put them together in some way. So as I say, this partial internal model result cannot be chosen, but it can be applied to you or forced on you, depending on how that conversation goes with the regulator. Okay, so those are the kind of at a high level, those are the ways in which you can calculate your SCR, and you need to decide which one of those you want to try and do. So what we'll do is we'll break the video here, and when we come back, we'll talk in a little bit more detail about how the standard formula calculates the SCR.